this is James with RogueDuelist Trade, and on this channel we talk about current and upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh product and whether or not you should invest your money in order to profit. Happy Halloween to any of you guys that might celebrate Halloween. Just wanted to do something fun at the beginning of the episode. If you guys don't know, I have two small children. My daughter and my son absolutely love Spider-Man. My son's gonna be Spider-Man and my daughter is gonna be Spider-Gwen, so of course I had to get a mask. So guys, on today's video, we're gonna do an updated risk analysis on Blazing Vortex. We have a lot more information on Blazing Vortex now, so we can do a more thorough analysis than we did in our previous video. Definitely, if you guys wanna get more information on cards that I might skim over very quickly, definitely check out my initial analysis on Blazing Vortex. So guys, before we jump in, if you are serious about wanting to get into Yu-Gi-Oh vending, highly consider the RDT Patreon in partnership with Pro Play Games. You guys can see prices that's coming up on the screen right now for both Blazing Vortex and Freezing Chains. Now guys, keep in mind, if you are interested in either of these products, the pre-orders close on November 2nd for both of them. We might have a little wiggle room in Freezing Chains, but Blazing Vortex is going to be a hard stop on November 2nd. If you guys are interested in Yu-Gi-Oh skits from me, you guys should follow my new channel and subscribe, RogueDuelist TV. You guys can access both the Patreon and RogueDuelist TV along with my social media accounts in the description down below. And lastly, I did start a Twitter, so if you guys want to tweet with me, you guys can find a link down in the description below. I'm still figuring that one out. All right guys, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So real quick, OTS launch is February 4th, 2021. Market launch is February 5th, 2021. Again, that's very important because pre-sales are going to happen prior to OTS launch up to OTS launch. And then after pre-sales is going to be market launch. That's when the market becomes flooded with more vendors, largely online only vendors, while the price begins to dip at that point, but it should still have a pretty strong price point for a lot of the cards during and a few days after market launch weekend. You guys can pause the video if you would like to see the ratios of rarities that are going to be coming in this product. Now, I did mention this in my initial video, but I think it is very important to state this again, that we are going to be getting 19 world premiere cards, very similar to Phantom Rage. And if you guys now look at Phantom Rage, we have a brand new archetype, which is Mutants. And Mutants is kind of a splashable engine, does have some negation aspects going on in what it can do. And it seems like it could be a very interesting archetype that could make its way into our meta. And Konami did call out a new Combat Craze theme, so that it is going to be a TCG exclusive theme. And also, if you guys look, we kind of have some Floodgate type of trap card that's going to be coming in. And we also have a very interesting spell card. So keep in mind that those cards could very well increase the percentage on our risk analysis for Blazing Vortex. So jumping into our first metric in our risk analysis, and again, if you guys are interested in understanding what all of these metrics mean, there's definitions down in the description below, but it should be pretty straightforward. So generic tech meta cards are also called free agents from Konami. So those are cards that can basically be used in any type of deck, and those are usually the money cards in core sets. We discussed the first two cards in our initial analysis. Crossout Designator we very well may be seeing, which is an easy 3 of depending on what format we are in the meta. That is definitely going to be a money card if it is in Blazing Vortex. Divine Treebeast is another interesting card. It's an Omni Negate, does have some conditions. Again, we talked about that in our initial video, but definitely a card to keep your eye on in terms of value. Now, the next 3 cards are cards that were recently unveiled by Konami in the OCG. Angel Statue Azarun is a continuous trap. I really like this card because you activate it, it can turn into a monster that goes in your monster zone, but it's still considered a trap, and you can basically send it to the graveyard and negate a special summon on your opponent's side of the field and also destroy the monster. So it kind of feels like a Solemn Judgment type of card, but specifically for special summons on your opponent's side of the field. Now, next is probably our latest Appaloosa type of boss monster that we could be seeing running rampant in our meta. And I'm only going to say the first words inside this card's name. It's Saros Aresh. So this is a Link 5 monster, and it requires at least 4+ effect monsters. Now, I'm kind of on the fence about this card. I feel like it's likely going to be a secret rare, possibly getting a Starlight treatment as well. And the reason why I'm on the fence about this card is because how many resources it requires to get onto the field. Now, one huge benefit about this card, it almost has kind of like a super poly type of effect where you can use a monster on your opponent's side of the field as one of its link material in order to link up into this card. Now, one thing that somebody mentioned, I believe it was DPYGO, is that this card would be nuts with IP Masquerena, because if you can IP Masquerena into this card during your opponent's turn while being able to use a monster on your opponent's side of the field as one of the link materials with IP Masquerena, that would be pretty nuts, because once you land this card on the field, it negates all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. Now notice though, that is only during its link summon, so it's not like a floodgate like a Destiny Hero Plasma. Is once it hits the field, all current monsters on your opponent's side of the field, their effects are negated, which is really good, but again, would be even better if IP Masquerena can play with this card, and if it can, then this card is very good and could be fairly oppressive in our meta. We'll see how that goes. And another really interesting thing about this card is that it is unaffected by card effects from your opponent that doesn't target it. Usually those types of effects is that, this card cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, but this card can only be targeted and it can't be affected by anything else. So it can't be sent to the graveyard. It can't be sent back to the hand. Obviously, on the top of my head, a really good out to this card could be like an Infinite Impermanence or something like that, because that does target. Now lastly, one of its effects, which is a quick effect, is that if your opponent activates an effect that can special summon from the graveyard as a quick effect, you can negate the special summon. So I think that's a plus, but again, I think the best thing about this card is that it will see play if IP Masquerena can be used with this card. Now the last notable card for generic tech meta cards that I think is worthy of discussion is Pot of Disparity. So at first, when I read this card, I thought it wasn't that good, but then reading into it a little bit more, I think that this card could see some crazy value, and here's why. Very similar to Pot of Extravagance, you can banish up to 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck in order to draw into the deck. Now, what's better about this card versus Pot of Extrav is that you can choose what cards you're banishing. It's not at random, and that's a huge deal because your extra deck could be a huge combo facilitator for you, but if you're able to go there and select 3 to 6 cards from your extra deck and banish them at your choosing, you can still maintain some of the key combos that you may need to go into. Now, the next thing, based on how many cards you banish, whether it's 3 to 6 cards, let's say you banish 6, you can draw 6 cards into your deck, pick 1 card, put the rest back into your deck. Even though it's not like a +1 card like a Pot of Extravagance, you can dig 6 cards on top of your deck and maybe get that main combo facilitator that you need to your hand. Now, another thing to note though, you can't draw into the deck with effects for the rest of the turn after using this. And also if you use it, you have to have the battle damage that your opponent takes for the rest of that turn. But if you're going first, that doesn't matter. So overall, I graded generic tech meta cards as a 4 as high. Some of these cards could see a fair amount of play. So I definitely think that there's a good amount of 3-ofs. Next is new archetypes. We are going to be getting Spriggans and we're going to be getting Security Force. These are the 2 archetypes that I think are most notable coming out of Blazing Vortex. And we're going to start with Spriggans. So one thing that I really like about all of the main deck monsters in this archetype, if any of them are in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can attach them to one of your Spriggans Xyz monsters on your field. You can easily rack up materials on your Xyz monsters every single turn as long as you have some of the main deck monsters in your hand, field, or graveyard. Let's start with Spriggans Banger. So what I really like about this card is that it's the searcher. So not only does it get the effect that I just mentioned, but also if you banish this card and another Spriggans card from your graveyard, you can search a generic Spriggans card from your deck to your hand. The next one I want to discuss is Spriggans Captain Sargis. What I like about this card is that it has a quick effect that has some disruption where you can target a face-up card, so generic card, on your opponent's side of the field and destroy it. So this could be a card that you might want to have onto the board, kind of like as part of your end board. So I definitely see this card being pretty playable in that perspective. Next is the Xyz monster, which is Spriggans Ship Explorer. Basically, you can choose a zone on your opponent's side of the field. So let's say you choose a monster zone. And if you do that, based on how many materials you detach from it, you can destroy whatever card is in that zone you choose, and also all cards that are on its left and right and on its top and bottom, if there are any cards there. So you can destroy up to 5 cards if you're able to put 5 materials on this card. Now, the next thing that's really cool about this is that on your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can banish this card for a turn and bring it back to your field. Now, yes, it does lose all of its Xyz material, but if all the main deck monsters are in the graveyard, you can just go and reattach them on your turn. Very cool card, very interesting, really like where Konami is kind of going with this. And what I also love is that this archetype is splashable. You don't get locked out of any types of summonings or monsters or anything like that. So next card is Spriggan's Watch. And this archetype does have a field spell, which I'm going to talk about next. But this card can search the field spell. But if you have the field spell already on your side of the field, you can search a Spriggan's monster from your deck to your hand, and also Foolish Burial a Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard. And again, their effects can attach themselves to Xyz monster from hand, field, or graveyard. So you immediately get 2 materials just from using this card. So next, let's talk about the field spell, which is Vast Desert Gold Golgonda. So this card's very good, and what I like about it most is that if you have no Spriggan's monsters on your side of the field, you can discard one Spriggan's card and automatically special summon a Spriggan's Xyz monster from your extra deck to the field. And again, it's very easy to throw materials on your Xyz monsters, so that's very good. Another plus is that all Spriggan's Xyz monsters on your side of the field gain 1,000 attack. So let's go ahead into my top picks for Security Force. So starting with Security Force Bridgehead. So this card is basically your Rhoda for the deck. If you activate it, you can search a Security Force monster from your deck to your hand. Now note, this is a field spell, so you would activate that and immediately get your search. Now the other effects for this card aren't really that great. You would really want this card mostly for its searching effect. Next is Security Force Rappa Kaiomeru. If you have it on the field, you can banish a Security Force monster from your hand, return this card to your hand, and special summon a Security Force monster from your deck to the field. And the reason why this card is good is because of the next 2 Security Force monsters. So starting with Gravitino. If you look at this card, it really reminds me of Elemental Hero Stratos. I don't know, something about it. It looks like a female version of Stratos. Now, if this card gets normal or special summon to the field, you can search any Security Force card from your deck to your hand. So again, it pretty much is like a Stratos. Very good. Now, Security Force Platina, the reason why I like this card, now again, remember, with Kaiomeru, you banish a monster from your hand in order to activate its effect. So let's say you search Platina from your deck and special summon it to the field. You can special summon a Security Force monster that's banished onto your field. So it's an immediate 2 cards that you get onto the field. Again, if you're banishing Gravitino using Kaiomeru's effect and you special summon her from your banish zone, you get a search as well. So you definitely could see some pretty cool combos that you can do with this deck. All right, so last card is Security Force Justify. Now, the reason why I like this card is because you can target an effect monster and negate its effects, which is very good in today's meta. Obviously, you need some negation in Archetype. Another thing that's good is that when you negate that monster, you can move it to a zone that this card points to. And another cool thing about this card, if it attacks during the damage step, you can banish all monsters that this card points to. So you could essentially banish 3 cards depending on if it happens to work out that way, but you can at least banish 1 card if you negated a monster's effect. So I went ahead and graded this as a 3.5. I don't think out of these 2 archetypes there might be anything that's really going to be breaking the meta. I could end up being completely wrong. I feel Spriggan's has probably the biggest potential. Now do note though that both archetypes are splashable because they don't lock you into anything. So our next metric is going to be legacy support, and I did cover a lot of this in my initial video, so I'm going to touch on some things very lightly. Some of the top archetypes which will likely see higher value, one because of being a fan favorite or having some meta relevance, is Armed Dragons, Metal Foes, Eldritch, and Tri-Brigade. I already discussed this before, but I'll touch them very quickly. Armed Dragon Thunder level 7. The reason why this is one of my top picks is that because it is a generic searcher for Armed Dragons. So if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can search any Armed Dragon card from your deck to your hand. Armed Dragon Thunder level 3 is basically a 1-card combo. This can get you up the ladder, all of the different Armed Dragon Thunder level monsters. And then Armed Dragon Flash is basically an E-teleport for Armed Dragon Thunder level 3, which gets you into that 1-card combo. Next is Metal Foes. Again, the Link monster is very good for being able to open up more link spots for pendulum heavy decks, which is very important. Metal Foes Vanisher, very similar to Armed Dragon level 7, can search any Metal Foes card from your deck to the hand. That's definitely the biggest thing that is very good about this card. All right, so going into some of our newer cards for this analysis, we're going to talk about El Rey Conquista Eldritch. So this is the fusion monster coming for Eldritch. This card requires one Eldritch monster and one level 5 or higher zombie monster. So what I like about this card is when it's on the field, its name is always Eldritch the Golden Lord, which is very imperative if you're playing an Eldritch deck because you always want to have Golden Lord on the field. So that's good. And another great thing about this card is that it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. So the only things that can take care of this is cards that send, cards that banish, anything that doesn't destroy or isn't by battle. So that makes him a lot harder to take care of. And he's also a 3,800 beat stick. One last thing that I really like about this card is that if you're playing other zombie monsters, if you have them on your field, you can destroy a zombie monster on your side of the field and take control of a monster on your opponent's side of the field. And for that turn, it can't attack or use its effects. But what's cool is that on your opponent's turn, you can. So let's say you take a monster that's able to negate or something like that from your opponent's side of the field. Once your opponent starts their turn, you can use that monster's effect to be able to negate any of their cards depending on what you took. Now I'm calling out the new continuous spell, which is 7 Realms of the Golden Land. The reason why is that this card basically gets you into your fusion summon to get into Conquista. And because it's a Golden Land card, you can search this from your deck with a lot of the different Eldritch cards. And lastly is Tri-Brigade Kit. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can send one Tri-Brigade card, so any card, from your deck to the graveyard except Tri-Brigade Kit. Also has all the other Tri-Brigade effects. It's a very good card and definitely something I feel people that are going to be playing Tri-Brigades will want to be play testing and likely use. So overall, I'm grading Legacy Support as a 4, largely because I think there's a lot of potential, and I think mostly, especially with the Arm Dragon side, it's a very fan favorite archetype, and I think a lot of people are going to be chasing after these Legacy Support cards, which again adds value if you're a vendor trying to make a return. The next metric is impact to the meta format. I would say the best free agent cards that we're going to be getting that can make a level of impact in the meta is Crossout Designator, Saros Aresh, and Pot of Disparity. Crossout Designator and Pot of Disparity, I think, are cards that can easily be 3 of that many decks would likely want to consider playing. Pot of Disparity helps you get into your 1-card combos a lot easier for decks that might not be as consistent. Crossout Designator can basically help you avoid any problematic card that really hurts your deck from being able to play. And Saros Aresh could easily be a new extra deck boss monster that people are going to try to get onto the field. And again, IP Masquerena makes her amazing. And next is splashable engines. So Security Force and Sprig Guns are splashable. So because of that, I think on their own as archetypes, they're okay. But I'm sure that we're going to be seeing these cards play tested within other archetypes. Again, we just might see them played in archetypes that mesh really well and could become meta. So overall, I'm grading it high as a 4. I think there's a ton of potential. I think it's kind of hard to say until maybe we start seeing them played in the OCG format or we start seeing some more deck builds. Next is collector value. Nothing's really changed here from the previous analysis. Overall, I think Thunder Dragons is going to be something that people are going to want to chase after because it's a very fan favorite archetype and it's very fun to play and nostalgic if you played level decks back in the day. And I think the top cards that are going to have collector value likely going to be the higher level Armed Dragon Thunder cards, and then also the 5 Starlight Rares that we're going to see. Now, we don't know what any of them are going to be yet, but we know they're likely going to be there because it's a core product, so it definitely adds good value. So I went ahead and graded this as a 4.5. So previously I graded this as a 5. I lowered it slightly. I decided to add 0.5 into the mix because I feel sometimes it's so close from being a 4 or a 5. Reprint ratio selection, again, very similar to the last video. It's going to be very good for a core set because they are all new cards. And anytime you're getting new cards that's coming into the format, that means there are no predecessors or previous prints, which means they're going to be the first cards in the market. They're going to hold the highest value. They're not going to be diluted because it's reprint after reprint after reprint. So it's very good we're not getting reprints, which was why I'm grading this as a 5. And for product value versus cost, on the RDT Patreon, you can get a case of Blazing Vortex for $630 per case if you buy 5 to 10 cases. That makes your cost a lot lower and helps ensure that you get better margins if you get your cost down. So again, if you get your cost down, you're already ensuring a better return. Now, the other thing to take into account is how many different chase cards are going to come in this product to help you make a return. I think it has very good potential, but I don't know. I think it's teetering from being medium to high. So that's why I went ahead and graded this as a 3.5. All right, so our score for this risk analysis is going to be be a 79.8. Now, I do believe this was like at a 72 or something in our initial analysis. There's a ton of added value that we now know for what's going to be coming into this product. If you guys are wanting to pre-order this product while distributor pre-order windows are still open. Now, again, we're going to be getting 19 world premiere cards, and that could easily shoot up this score maybe to like an 85 or something like that if Konami does a phenomenal job in what they're doing in some of these TCG exclusives that we might be seeing. All right, guys, so that is the end of this video. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree, disagree with me with any of these metrics or discussions that we had in today's video? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, guys, if you enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Investment content and you haven't done it already, go ahead right now and subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos from me. If you guys want to help grow this channel, to help the YouTube algorithm, like this video. Some next videos that you guys can expect from me, we got a ton of leaks from Maximum Gold. And lastly, I do plan on making a risk analysis on freezing chains. But all right, guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the content for this video, and we'll see you on the next video on RogueDuelist Trade.